Head over to BoardGamePrices.com to see the best prices and availability for thousands of games. Hello my friends, it's the Game Boy Geek here. Today we're going to be on the water in a boat and trying not to be eaten by sharks, but not just any shark, the shark, Jaws. This was such a big popular movie when I was a kid growing up, and now this movie's theme and intellectual property is being brought to the board game world by Ravensburger. So we're going to look at Jaws the game. It's Target exclusive. There are essentially 2 acts. Let me show you how it works, and I'll see you on the other side. In Jaws, one player is going to play the shark, where the other player or players are going to play Brody, Quint, and Hooper cooperatively against the shark. Now the game is played over 2 different acts, and they're both sort of different games, but the first act does affect the second act. So I'm going to show you both acts at a very high level. In Act 1, it's a hidden movement game where the shark is going to be moving in a secret way on their sheet, not on the board, and they're going to be trying to eat a certain amount of swimmers. They're trying to eat all the way to 9 swimmers if they can. Where the crew is going to be moving around, trying to save swimmers and also hit the shark with barrels. Act 1 is played over multiple rounds, and each round, first an event will happen. It'll tell you where to place some swimmers, like 2 in the north and 1 in the west. And also in this case, because the shark's swimmers count that they've eaten is less than 3, we'll actually put also another swimmer in south, east, and west. So from that event card, we've placed all these swimmers. The shark's going to be trying to eat them, and the crew's going to be trying to save them. Now, before the swimmers were put out, the sharks secretly said where they were going to start. In this case, they started in the east location, which essentially is the east beach. Now, the beach here is made up of different spots, and they're sort of outlined here, like east beach, west, south, north. And then there's also numbered spots, but there's also numbered spots over here out in the ocean, 1, 2, 3, and 4. And the shark started in the east. The shark gets 3 actions. You can either move or eat. And when you move, you can move to any adjacent spot. So the shark could go 1, 2, 3 and move all the way over here, but that would be their whole turn. Again, they're doing it in a hidden fashion. The other players don't know what's going on. But they started here. Another thing I think they can do is eat. So they could essentially say, I'm going to eat this, and then it's going to say, I'm going to move over here, and then maybe over here. So the shark ends in section 1. So the shark ate a swimmer on the east beach, so they put 1 there, and they ended up at the end of turn 1 in location number 1, so they placed that there. This is how they track what they've done, and they put this up 1 because they ate 1 of the swimmers. One of the ways the round ends if the shark gets all the way to 9 swimmers, so that's what the shark is trying to do. Then it's the crew's turn, and each crew member is going to be able to take 4 actions. Now, all they know is that this person was eaten. They don't know where the shark started. They don't know where it ended. Now again, each of them gets 4 actions, and the main actions are to like move around adjacent and to rescue swimmers. So this player could have gone there and rescued both. That would have been 3 of their 4 actions, and all 3 of these players can sort of move a space and rescue a swimmer. However, this one, since he's not on the beach, not on a sort of a boat, cannot go out to here, but they can stay just in this inner spot like this. Now, some of the special things that Brody can do here is they can move to the shop and buy a barrel. They can hold it, and when they move to a dock, they can place it right here like this. Now, if this player still hadn't gone yet, they can come here and actually pick up this. They put it on their player board, and they can carry it around. And actually, if they ever get in the same spot as Quint, they can give this barrel to Quint. Now, why is that important? Because Quint, when it's their turn, can actually launch one of these barrels. Now, they can launch it in a spot where they're at or any adjacent spot. When they do that, if the shark is there, the shark must say, yes, you've hit me with a barrel. And it goes here, and if the shark ever gets hit with a second barrel, Act 1 ends, and where they are on the swimmer track, will depend on how well the crew does in the second act, meaning they'll get more crew gear. And the faster that the 2 barrels hit, the less shark abilities they're going to get, for the second act as well. Now, if the barrel didn't hit the shark, this is now a motion sensor. So now, if the shark goes through this, they must mention that they went through this. Now, these boats can still come here and pick it up, and this one can still try to launch it again, but sometimes they'll want to leave it here for a motion sensor. Another special action is this fish finder. Hooper can drop that where they're at, and essentially the shark has to mention whether they're in this spot, an adjacent spot, or neither. So it gives them an idea of where the shark is. Now Brody has some special abilities too. They can close a beach, meaning if swimmers are supposed to come here, they won't. This will just get flipped over. It's opening soon. And if swimmers have to go here again, at the beginning of the round, essentially they won't go again. This will open the beach. It stops swimmers from going in that specific spot. Also, Brody has some binoculars. And when they drop those, the shark needs to say if they are there or not. If they are, they would put the shark token out there to help remind players. Now the shark has some abilities too. These are typically face down, but I've left them face up so you can see. And they can do one of these per turn, but each of these can only be used once per game. Like the evasive moves, it does not trigger any motion sensors, or the speed burst, it can move up to 3 spaces with one action. The shark can eat all swimmers on a beach, things like that. We can stay out of sight of some of their little tricks. Now, when they do use these, at the end of their turn, they must tell the crew that they've used one of their abilities, but they won't say which one. So each round, an event card is going to come out, swimmers will be placed, something will happen, the shark will do their movement, the crew will do their movement, and you'll keep doing this until either the shark eats 9 swimmers or the shark has been hit with 2 barrels. So let's say after the 4th turn, the shark had eaten 7 swimmers, but he got hit with 2 barrels. This means the crew is going to get 5 extra gear cards next act, and the shark's going to get 8 abilities. Now in Act 2, you go to the boat. So there's a boat with the 3 different crew members on it. The shark is trying to either destroy the entire boat or kill all 3 of the crew members. And the crew is trying to do a certain amount of damage to get all the way down to here, and then they would beat the shark and win. However, the shark's going to have a lot of ability cards, again, depending on how Act 1 ended. And each crew member has 2 gear cards that are specific to them, and then they'll get a certain amount of general gear cards depending on, again, how well they did in Act 1. And they will look at these and they will actually give these as they see fit to the different crew members. They get to talk about who will get what. This will help them sort of beat the shark. Now this act is played over multiple rounds as well. First, 3 resurface cards comes up and shows what areas possibly the shark will come up in for cards A, B, and C. So this lets everyone know where the shark might come up in. Then based upon these A, B, or C's, the shark's going to secretly select using tokens face down as to which one of those spots they're going to go to. Then each of the crew members can move up to 2 spots. Then they're going to select one of their weapons, and they're going to place a target token. Now these tokens can go in different spots depending on which weapons they select. Most of the time it's going to be in their spot or in adjacent water space to where they are, but some of the weapons allow them to shoot pretty much anywhere. Then the shark is going to reveal their hidden token and show which spot they're in. So essentially they're going to be here. Any targets that were not in that spot would then get removed. And so now we're here, we were essentially in C, which means these 2 cards are also discarded. This is what's going on here. So let's say Quint had these 3 weapons. Now the ones with the hands can only hit adjacent to them, where the gun can shoot anywhere. However, you have to discard this, after firing the harpoon gun. So let's say they use this trank spear. They're going to roll 3 dice. So let's say they take these 3 dice. Ooh, 2, 4, 5 damage. And it says, if your attack wounds the shark, then the shark only wants 1 die. But after attacking, you must discard this. It's sort of a one-time card. So they're able to do 5 hits. Now since they did 5, you look at the card that it resurfaced on, which was this one, and it evaded one of those. So out of those 5, one of them did not hit, but he did get hit with 4. And that weapon, if you remember, said if it gets wounded, it only rolls 1 die. Normally it would roll the shark would roll the amount of dice seen here, which would be 2, but now the shark just rolls 1, and it would do 1 damage. Now since the shark is going to do 1 damage, you can either damage the boat or a person. You can only damage a person if they're in the water. But when they hit the boat, they could do 1 damage to damage the boat, or 3 that would actually destroy this part of the boat. Since they only did 1, they simply just flip this over, and this boat is now damaged. However, anytime they damage it, the player falls into the water. And on a subsequent turn, if they do 1 damage here, it would completely remove this from the game, and that's one of the way the shark wins, is by destroying the entire boat. If there's a player in the water, then the shark can do damage to them, and they would simply go down to health if they were able to do that. So if they did do some damage, each damage would go down here. If it gets down to there, that player's eliminated. If all 3 players are eliminated, the shark wins. Now the shark has some ability cards, and when secretly saying where they're going to go, they could have selected one of these, and this will do all sorts of different things, like if the shark damages the boat's destroyed, or the shark's evade value is 3, things like that. So there's all different things that the shark can sort of play secretly, and then they actually come into effect when the shark attacks. That's pretty much how Act 2 works. The crew's trying to destroy the shark's trying to destroy all 3 crew members or the entire boat. All right, well, there's Jaws. First of all, cool theme and intellectual property. Jaws is a very sort of popular movie, even with with my age group and older, and even some of the younger kids are starting to get back into it. So definitely a positive there. And I like that the theme matches the mechanisms. One player is playing that shark, and they're doing a lot of hidden movement. They're moving around trying to jump on the boat. So I like the theme matches the mechanisms well in this game. I liked Act 1 much better than Act 2, more on that in just a little bit. So a lot of the positives I have here are about the Act 1 hidden movement. Hidden movement is one of those mechanisms that are one of my favorite. When you're the shark and you're moving around, you're trying to misdirect, you're trying to not let them know exactly where you are, but at the same time you're trying to eat those swimmers, and you're trying to sort of throw them off and bluff and double bluff and things like that. And I always like that in games. I think it's done well here. It's very simple. They don't convolute it. It's pretty, by the book hidden movement. I like that aspect in a simple game like this. The abilities on both sides are cool because the shark has those 4 abilities that they can use in that first act, but then all the different characters on the other side each have their own things. Like the captain's able to throw the barrels, one is able to run and get to the store and get the barrels and put them off. So each of them have sort of different things, and I like that aspect of it. I like the guessing and bluffing aspect of this, where they're really trying to guess where you are based upon what you've done and where you're likely to go next, and they're trying to guess and throw the barrels at you. I like that. I liked how the first act really sort of carries into the second act, because basically how well you do as the shark or how bad you do as a shark will influence how the deck is stacked against you or for you in the second act. So that's most of the positives about the game. Let me go into some of the negatives that I didn't like about it. Especially in the second act, I felt like there was really kind of like too much going on. There was a little bit too many little rules. It was a little, as some people will call fiddly, a little bit in the second act. And I think there's a little bit too much going on for a game that's at a Target exclusive, sort of mass market. I've played this with gamers and I played it with non-gamers, and the non-gamers just felt like that second act was way too confusing, way too much going on. And that's kind of this target market, I believe, is people that like Jaws, walked into Target and saw it and wanted it. I think there's just a little bit too much going on there for the typical Target buyer. Both acts are so different, which is a sort of a positive, that they did feel, wow, very like different games. But on the other side, they're so different and they're so on the opposite sides of the spectrum that you're likely probably going to like one of these acts and not the other. For me, I really liked the Act 1, did not like the Act 2. That's sort of a personal preference thing, is I don't like the die rolling and the combat and stuff like that. But the problem with that is that it doesn't really feel like a full game just playing one of those acts. You play just Act 1, it's like, okay, it's fine, but there's better hidden movement games out there that are quick, like Stop Thief, or an older game like Clue Museum Caper, things like that. So on its own, Act 1 isn't strong enough for me to bring it to the table all the time. And Act 2, for me, there's just too much rolling and too much combat for my taste. So it's sort of a weird thing. I like the idea, I like what they were going for, having 2 acts, allowing you to separate them out and play them differently, but they're so different, you're probably gonna wanna do that, because you're probably gonna like one much better than the other. And then it's just a little bit too much going on. So I don't know. I think this one is definitely try before you buy. With all the problems I've had with the game, it's not one that I'm going to be bringing out a whole lot, but I do like the first act, just not quite enough. And that is Jaws by Ravensburger. This video was shot on a Game Topper, the ultimate gaming accessory. After successfully fulfilling their first Kickstarter, Game Toppers are taking the world by storm. Now you can get your own portable gaming top by participating in Game Topper's Kickstarter 2.0 starting June 25th, 2019. New styles, new sizes, and amazing new game mats. Go to GameToppersLLC.com to enter a full Game Topper system valued over $1,000 to also bring you to the Kickstarter project page and to late pledge.